out from the from seeing the laning phase into the team fights, but it doesn't matter because draft's coming up.
It does matter because draft affects that a great deal as well. Like,
this is true.
Do you draft early? Do you draft mid? Do you draft late? That's the big question. RB taking on Giants. RB are on the red side to start us off, and they banned away Gragas from Gilius.
Yeah, he's not going to get his hands on that this time round. Solid ban. I fully expect Caitlyn to come out as a ban for RB as well, if not by Giants. She has seen 100% presence on 713 thus far in professional play. The Tal Jace ban makes complete sense as well. That has been a standout first ban for most teams versus RB.
What do you think are the next intentions here for RB? Because we have seen, as you say, a lot of Caitlyn, a lot of Zac. Do you think they will focus down those usual picks?
Yeah, so I think Caitlyn is probably going to get banned against RB. I think that Rakan as well into Kasing. And then there is always the question of Zac, which is, again, it's essentially the same as Caitlyn,
It's really interesting, the draft phase, when you have an RB, when you're going up against RB, because you actually draw so many individual champion bans, like the Rakan, like the Jace, that you wouldn't often normally ban against a lot of other players. And it does make the draft phase kind of interesting. That, to me, is interesting. That tells me that Cedrian didn't want to play Caitlyn, because you would obviously ban something, then leave Giants to make that decision on the final ban of B side, usually, or red side.
It's odd because Caitlyn, you can take it as first pick anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's such a strong, powerful champion. It does beg the question as what they're prioritizing higher than Caitlyn.
Elise is there as a possibility. Also, the Rakan's still there for Team RB if they want it. The Caitlyn ban, as you say, is intriguing. Hasn't been played by Cedrian yet this split. It's still a very strong AD carry, and you expect most AD carries to know how to play Caitlyn at this point. RB are taking a bit of time.
It's not hard. You right-click.
Yeah. Well,
you also have to be able to find the items in the shop. Yeah. I think that's the difficulty, isn't it?
It's very challenging to find all of those items.
Now, this is a Cedrian pick, if it has been a pick at all during the Challenger Series. Varus, I mean, I remember Deficio tweeting out and looking at the AD carry picks during Rift Rivals. He's saying, where's my boy Varus at? Well, Cedrian championing Varus during the Challenger Series, and they actually prioritized that as a first pick over the likes of Elise for Muujin, which has been transferred over to Giants now.
This could be because Elise and Rek'Sai are both still open, and if you don't have too much of a preference between the two, currently sort of top ganking junglers, then you can happily give over the one and take away the other. That's what I'm expecting to happen here.
Well, there are the Elise and the Kalista locked in for Giants. Interested to see the Kalista could, of course, have gone for the Jhin as well here for Giants. Mini Trupax has played both that Kalista and the Jhin last week up against Origin. They went 2-0. Not saying too much against Origin recently, but perhaps he can revive some of that form. RB looking for their jungler, we would expect here, and perhaps even a support as well to make sure they don't lose out on that support pool.
Generally, unless you're looking to absolutely prioritize a mid lane on your first rotation, you often generally see your bot lane and jungler picked up on first rotation because it is just the safest. And Lee Sin getting locked in for Muujin here. We know how powerful he has been as an early pressure jungler. The good thing about Muujin is if he isn't getting ganking stuff done, he's either super good at farming or super good at securing neutral objectives. He is never a time on the map where he is quiet. And that's what I really want to look for this game. I want to see Muujin to be that proactive against a jungler on the opposite side that requires that level of proactivity, because Gilius is one of the best ganking junglers in the Challenger Series right now. So.
But this is a tough matchup for the Lee Sin into Elise. If Elise finds you in your jungle, you will be bursted down, through the runic echoes as well. So he's got to be very careful and make sure that he plays this pretty much perfectly to avoid the Elise.
How much of that becomes about winning lanes as well then? Because if the Elise is going to invade, you need those pushing lanes to help you out. We'll come back to that at the end of the draft because I really want to think about that early pressure from the junglers. Next ban phase here for Giants, going to get rid of that Shen and RB. Where are they looking for this set of bans?
I think RB need to ban Fiora. Yeah.
Yeah. About that split pusher.
Yeah, you don't want to give that over to Ruin, and I think because it is such a powerful pick. And the funny thing about these compositions, we haven't really been shown what they are intending to do as a global macro strategy, because you don't get too much from the bot lane and jungle pick when it comes to it. Often it's defined by your solo lanes. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that sort of brings out.
And both team comps are quite similar. They both kind of have engage tools. They're kind of off tanky or at least shieldy tools with the Rakan, Braum, and then both junglers are playing carries.
Ruin gets his Gnar banned as well.
Not too much of a surprise. Gnar on 713 is incredibly powerful. Buffs to the crunch, buffs to the Boomerang Blade as well. LeBlanc, Syndra, Orianna, so much still open here. Giants go for the LeBlanc for Jizuki. We have seen him play that twice. Of course, has a 100% win rate on it because Giants are undefeated. But he can do a lot of work in the mid lane with that champ.
So this already opens up the strategy of a 1-3-1. When you pick a LeBlanc will want to eventually transition into a side lane. She's got good wave shove with the Shatter Orb and the Sigil of Malice. And also, has the ability to impact team fights as well. So you eventually sort of transition into that double teleport 1-3-1 here. My God.
Lissandra, that's a champion I haven't seen on the Rift for a very long time. Frozen Dawn, what are the strengths of this Lissandra?
Ye old LeBlanc counter is what it is. I mean, along with Morgana, which is sort of half troll, those two champions have been the LeBlanc counters since LeBlanc was, you know, brought into League of Legends. So essentially that's what they're taking. They're deciding to take a team fighter that can take to teleport and match the LeBlanc's pressure.
Point and click CC is LeBlanc's worst nightmare, and the Frozen Tomb is one of those abilities that can just lock a LeBlanc down and absolutely, you know, destroy her if you have that burst damage there. I like what RB have done here, by the way, with their picks. They basically have picked two good, solid solo laners, so that if you do get locked up into a matchup where you have a 1-3-1, you have the tools to answer it already from RB.
We have seen this Jarvan before from Ruin, not surprised to see him pick that one up again, and does allow him to try and gank that mid lane pretty readily early on. That's how they got ahead last week. Perhaps he'll be looking to do that again here.
It is very tough to gank Lissandra, is the only thing. I mean, Elise can come down as well, and between, you know, the three of you, you're pretty much one-shot her at that point, but her claw is able to get out of the Jarvan ulti. Still, it's still a fine option, though. It gives you team fight presence. It can kind of hold the Renekton, does get bullied in the laning phase, but after that, can sort of push the wave and then look to pressure the map.
The funny thing about these two compositions is that I think they're almost trying to do the same thing, just in different ways.
They are, absolutely.
It's almost trying to do the same thing, just in sort of slightly different ways. You have good engage from both teams. They want to put pressure under a turret or force a team fight. Lissandra or Renekton can do it for the side of RB. Lee Sin can even do it with the kick, obviously. Rakan can even do it in some instances. And you have the similar kind of thing from Giants. They will, as you can see with the double teleports, want to transition into 1-3-1s eventually. I think a lot of this is going to come down to who gets that steamroll from the laning phase. And traditionally, what we've seen so far, that has been RB in a lot of instances, especially against some of the tougher opponents as well. If you get steamrolling from the laning phase in your solo lanes, you have the advantage, I think, going into the mid game.
Well, especially as you have to shut down LeBlanc to be able to, you know, essentially handle her. If she does get fed, then even when you group up, she's going to have pressure and she's going to be able to snipe you sort of as you group up mid. So the question is going to come down, I think, essentially to how well these two mid laners can battle it out and whether the LeBlanc can just be shut down by the Lissandra, which is entirely her job.
Quickly, before we get into the game predictions, guys, Frozen Dawn, we'll start with you.
I think RB have the potential to be able to shut down the LeBlanc.
I want a who's going to win. Who's going to win?
Game one?
Yeah, game one.
RB.
RB?
I'm actually going to go the same. I think RB.
I'm going to go Giants because Mini Trupac's going to go unkilled once again. I think they do have a few strengths. We'll have to see how it does play out. I'm going to get onto the Summoner's Rift in just a second. Before we do, Frozen Dawn, tell me just a little bit about these jungle matchups. We said the Elise can beat out the Lee Sin early. Do you think she's got the tools to do that?
So Gilius definitely has the skill to do it, and Elise, essentially how it's going to work is if Elise is hiding in a bush and Lee Sin walks anywhere near her, the stun range and then the full combo from Elise, which she can proc pretty much during her stun duration, is going to be sufficient to essentially one-shot the Lee Sin. That only changes at about level 6 when Lee Sin gets his kick and can essentially do the exact same thing back to her. I
actually think it's a really interesting jungle matchup because if Lee Sin can do the same and catch Elise with a Sonic Wave and then she's already used Repel or something like that, it can be very difficult for the Elise too, but I agree. I think in most instances you would favor the Elise in a straight-up duel if she gets the catch on Lee Sin, but it is about getting the catch, right? Absolutely, that's the most important part.
But how do they get the catches? Because we talked about lane priority. Do you think that Giants can actually get that Elise into the jungle early on?
Well, Renekton's going to push in the top lane and then Lissandra the mid, so I think Lee Sin's just going to have to work around that.
Thank you very much, Frozen Dawn. It is Xscoundrel and myself to take us into the action on Summoner's Rift for the first game of the day. Giants taking on RB, looking to continue their undefeated streak and pull a Schalke is what I'm going to call it from now on.
Pull a Schalke.
Can they pull a Schalke? That's the big question. Sounds like something you tried to do on a Saturday night.
Me, specifically?
Actually, not specifically you, because you are in a very happy relationship. Frozen Dawn might try and do it, though. Don't know how happy his relationship is for the time being. Looks like Tal and Mugen are going to get some vision forward here just a little bit.
By the way, that Renekton skin is so cool.
It's not pool party, it's toy, isn't it? Renektoy. It's well named. I think some of the puns that the naming department come out with are actually pretty strong. This is something we've seen a lot of teams do: is get that early ward just over where the Razor Beaks are to try and spot people out. They've actually put a ward down here in the bottom side as well because they know if they take some pressure from Kalista Braum early on, they can get harassed down.
Interesting, we were talking about who's going to have that shove to get someone into the enemy jungle. I don't know if we'll see too much counter-jungling this game because the ability for lanes to shove back very quickly and for things to be tipped over the edge very quickly is probably a little bit too high. I would imagine early on, Renekton should be able to put a lot of pressure onto the Jarvan in terms of lane shove with the Kill the Meek. And Lissandra should be able to just throw out those shards and push in the LeBlanc. But You know, Lissandra, before level 6, is always going to have to be careful about LeBlanc's ability to trade into her. Lissandra does not have the ability to respond to LeBlanc trades incredibly easily. So we'll have to be very careful pre-6, I think, against Jizuki, who has been, obviously, like you said, 100% win record on this team right now. So they are the team to beat in the Challenger Series. And RB, this is probably the first real tough competition that Giants has had to face up against. I think that's something that's really important to stress. Giants have got a 100% win record, but they are 100% against the bottom 3 teams in the Challenger Series thus far. This is the first test for Giants to see whether they can continue that kind of form.
However, Giants are 100% against Wind and Rain, and RB are not 100% against Wind and Rain. They drew against them in a prolonged affair a couple of weeks ago. So Giants there, you could say, have the superior standing. Their late game seems perhaps to be slightly stronger as well, their decision-making in late game team fights, whereas RB have been known as the mechanically superior players. And the question then becomes, can they extend that mechanical advantage into an early game lead? We are going to see a route onto Jizuki, and this is the trading that we talked about with that point-and-click stun, although it's an area Ring of Frost.
It's the route at the start. Yeah, if you can stop Jizuki from making aggressive plays, you actually have the advantage as the Lissandra. You know, you just basically outrange her for the most part. Actually, Ruin starting to shove in Thal here as well. So if Elise wanted to make moves, you do have the lane position to do that, although it's a bit more risky for an Elise to invade Elise in. Realistically, as an Elise, you want to try and catch out Elise in as he invades you. As Thal makes a good trade into Ruin.
Both of them trading pretty effectively in this top lane. The Dragon Strike coming out from the Q of the Jarvan into the Grasp of the Undying, actually keeping him a little bit healthier.
Really good.
Sorry.
So, no, I actually completely interrupted you. I'm sorry, buddy. We got a gank going
Engage,
on.
Flash, Ruthless Predator. Ruin's going to try and jump away. Does have the Flash. Muji's going to flash forward. Tempest Cripple looking for the slow. Ruin will go down to Mujin. First gank for the lead. Teleport actually being used. Cancelled from Jizuki.
Yeah, both teleports came out. Jizuki knew he was basically walking to his death there. Decided to not take the bait. And Ruin, you know, he knew what was going on there with Mujin's gank. He knew that he flashed in. Couldn't flash away from the Sonic, the Resonating Strike. Just didn't burn his flash, knew there was no point. So first blood goes over to Mujin. It is that Tal-Mujin combination that we have talked about so much. Their ability to synergize as a jungle and top is... I haven't seen the likes of this since Alfaria and Maxlaw. These guys, very, very good at putting pressure on top lane as a duo.
And it's something we do have to watch, because a lot of time you see Korean imports, especially in Challenger Series, not quite have the impact that you'd like. I think Paris Saint-Germain is a prime example of that. Blanc and Pilot coming in, mechanically, superb players, absolutely wonderful. But when it comes down to later on in the game, their ability to make decisions as a team tends to be let down. And what RB have done so well with this top and jungle matchup is they have allowed them just to snowball each other. They've allowed them to be in a position where they can just play with, play each other's game.
I knew it
so well.
I knew what you were doing. I like how you held that. That was really good.
Play with their food in that top lane and continually catch out the enemy top laner.
Oh, you recovered so well.
Thank you. Thank you.
I also think it's really important to stress how communication affects teams as well, especially that top lane jungle where you want to have the communication about certain aspects of the laning phase, flashes, spells used, ability to get a successful gank. You often see Korean imports do well when they are in a lane where communication matters so much. Top lane and jungle being a prime example of a duo, or a bot lane Korean lane where they need that level of communication with each other as the game progresses. So, you know, I think this is a really good indication of how communication really works well, especially for these two Korean guys playing for RB right now. They obviously have an incredible level of communication between the two of them, because this happens so consistently over and over again.
Gideus is pathing down towards the bottom side river here. Has control over that scuttler for the time being. Interested to see no vision control for Giants in that topside river, accepting the fact that Mujin might come forward for the gank. Ruin actually backed away once again. He's got himself a Dorman's Blade, knock up from Kasing, jump onto Jack Troll, but the Unbreakable Shield does a lot to stop Devarus, and we haven't talked too much about this bot lane matchup in and of itself. Kalista Braum, very, very strong at the moment, up there with Kalista Thresh, Kalista Rakan.
If you could land a Winter's Bite onto somebody, you should almost act like a Thresh hook, that you can isolate that target with Kalista and look for an execute. What's really interesting is how I thought for the most part Sejuani and Kasing should have the shove advantage. You have a range support against the Braum, you have the ability to shove waves so quickly with the piercing arrow. It wasn't until just then that the actual shove advantage was with RB. And also let's touch on Kasing specifically. He's on Rakan.
Another ranged support, or pseudo-ranged, squishier
Yeah, but he's a playmaking. We always talk about Kasing being a playmaking support player, and Rakan is one of those playmaking champions, and I think we should really keep our eye on how Kasing looks to dictate engages, dictate fights towards the mid and late game, because it was something that he gave RB so much success with. I think all of you might remember if you watched the Challenger Series qualifier, he made some incredible Rakan plays during that week. So.
Gideas has been spotted out here up towards the top side, has just dinged 6. Mujin has that Dragon's Kick as well, the ultimate available. So much vision control for RB in this red side jungle of Giants.
And that was Mujin. Mujin walks in to get that vision control down because he wants to keep tabs on Julius early on. You know, if you are playing Elise, one of your major impacts is by getting very early jungle presence by ganking lanes. And by keeping tabs on Julius, that's a really important part. Look at this move, though. They're going to try and defend or aggress this red buff from Julius.
Smart play from Gileas as well, just to back away. Great blast cone to knock Magic Felix out as well. Interesting to see how long Kasing has spent up towards this mid lane and top side. He's been there for an incredibly long period of time. And it hasn't actually given Giants too much of an advantage in the bottom side. They've accepted Cedrian's just going to stand back and farm with the piercing arrow. Mini Trupax and Jack Troll haven't been able to capitalize.
Well, if you're going to play Varus and your support has gone roaming, he's one of the safest AD carries to make these kind of plays with. You can farm with Piercing Arrow as things move towards your tower, and naturally as a Kalista, you're going to want to try and push and put pressure on him. And they have got that lane, I think, slightly freezing, but it's not like hugely freezing. It looks like it's eventually going to push towards
probably about
Cedrian.
Like 4 to 10 degrees centigrade.
Yeah,
not
almost.
Quite freezing.
Not quite a freezing point.
It's cool, but not ice cold.
They are working.
Tell you what is cooler than being cool. Ice cold, scoundrel, and that is exactly the temperature that Lissandra wants to make people with that Frozen Tomb. Haven't seen her use that ultimate yet. Has gone Catalyst of Aeons in the mid lane. I was talking to Frozen Dawn beforehand, and he said some people are building the Abyssal Mask first, which now comes out of the Catalyst. I expect this to be a Rod of Ages. Don't expect it to be an Abyssal Mask, but it is something we're seeing a little bit more commonly. Yeah,
I don't think Abyssal Mask makes too much sense.
Mate, you go into the team and reduce the magic resist in an AoE.
I mean,
as a play-by-play, it makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense.
It does indeed.
To all of us.
I'm just trying to struggle with something technically over here, man.
Okay.
You just carry on.
Good. I can hear you, just in case that's what it is. Okay, so yes, let's have a look down towards this bottom lane as Jack Troll has now hit that level 6. Glacial Fissure up. Ice versus the Ice of Magic Felix, of course. Ocean Drake still there. Good control wards down that river. I'm sure actually Frozen Tomb comes in for Magic Felix. He's going to get the follow-up. Mujin with the second kill of the game.
And that's the perfect example of Lissandra post 6 versus LeBlanc. The point-and-click stun, so important at shutting her down. When she is locked in place, she can't have that impact. Rakan going in the bot lane there. Great gank by Mujin to follow up on Magic Felix's flash engage onto Jizuki.
Well, Jizuki, he needs to be able to get out of that a little bit quicker. Has got Mercury Treads for himself now, alongside that Hextech Revolver. Expect him to build up towards the Gunblade, but it's not that easy to get away from a Flash Frozen Tomb. That's what we've seen from Magic Felix for the time being. And
so anyway, yeah, there we go. I'm all good. I'm all sorted now, by the way, Medic. I'm all good, yeah. Apparently, my ears don't work. That was what's going on.
Oh, that sounds about right to me, in all honesty. Maybe you jostled something underneath the desk. 1,000 gold lead here for Team RB. They are slowly eking out an advantage. Mujin has both of their kills early on, and now is looking perhaps for a little bit more action down towards this bottom lane.
Mujin's had such a good impact in the early game, by the way, and it's something that is kind of put Julius on a...
Ooh.
Got a big roam down here. I think they realize that Mujin is around. Mujin will spy out LeBlanc, land a Q, and it's going to kind of ward them away. They are shoving into that turret, though, but it will now be a 4 versus 3. It's not such a sublime tower dive to take place when you have to go into a 4 versus 3, so they are going to back off. But it was a proactive roam from Julius and Jizuki, who, realistically, for the most part, have been pretty quiet.
Jizuki's going to land the chains onto Magic Felix, trying to shout a name for himself. Shatter Orb, waiting for the passive, can't quite connect. Magic Felix forced back, and that is what the LeBlanc can do in a pure 1v1. When the ultimates are down for Magic Felix, when he hasn't got the flash, it makes it a lot harder for him to fully engage onto Jizuki. Across the board, CS, gold, pretty much even between these two teams for the time being. Only those 2 kills really separating them, and Giants are going to try and equalize that with an Ocean Dragon of their own. An early Ocean Drake one of the better Drakes to have for the laning phase.
It was a really good capitalizing by Giants because they knew MagiFelix had gone back. Teleport, they were timing, it would be down. They then are able to just say, okay, we have a massive advantage in a teamfight situation if it broke out here. Easy dragon take for us, and RB made the correct decision not to even try and respond to that. Actually going to send Cedrian back, who's working towards Blade of the Ruin King. Tends to be the standard first item on the Varus these days.
It's a bit more of a tank shredder. Sometimes you see Varus is going more for the long-range poke build, which is something we used to see a lot more commonly.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It hasn't been so much the case for a little while now, but Blade of the Ruin King generally tends to be his sort of standard go-to. But with a Jarvan on side, you know, it gives you the opportunity to get maximum effectiveness out of that Blade of the Ruin King. Rod of Ages is now finished. We are post 6. Suddenly, this is going to make this an easier matchup for MagiFelix to function in, especially 1v1 scenarios. He's a little bit tankier to have to burst down. And you can see Jizuki off-kilter a little bit with his build path. Has had to prioritize Mercury Treads. Wants to reduce the duration that he's stuck in that ultimate for and reduce the damage because he knows how impactful Frozen Tomb can be at shutting him down post 6. And that was a really good piece of pressure. You were right about when the ultimate is down, by the way. MagiFelix doesn't really have the way to respond properly to Jizuki, but post 6 with ultimate up, really, really big.
4 men mid here for Team RB, perhaps looking for a bit of collapse. Once again, Kasing comes up. Mini has been left to farm down towards the bottom side. Now, do RB know that Jack Troll and Gilius are waiting in the wings? They'll call on the Herald. Jack Troll, you could have just queued him. He would have stopped it coming out. Oh, that was a bit of a mistime there from Jack Troll. All he needs to do is Winter's Bite Muujin, and it stops the Herald coming out. He wasn't quite able to connect. They get the tower anyway. Oh, I would have interrupted the channel.
Yeah, I mean, Rift Herald did its job, right? They wanted to get the first tower of the game. It was an easy first tower push because MagiFelix had been shoving into LeBlanc so often they'd already got the damage done necessary for a singular tap. Gilius now, they're caught out here.
Doesn't quite land. There's the TP coming in. Repel up straight away. Jackro looking for the charm, jumps in. Kasing on the back line as well. The Glacial Fisher out. Ruins joined the fray. Here's Mini as well. Getting onto Kasing, putting the spears through his heart. Jackro dies. The knock back! Cedrian, you absolute mean man! I was going to say a very different word there. Jizuki's being jumped in by Muujin. There comes the Glacial Path. Mini Trueback flashes in. Can't quite get the kill. Is this the end of the unkilled Mini? Yes, it is. The Cocoon lands, so as Gilius jumps in, MagiFelix tombs himself and comes down with the Cataclysm. Another kill for him. They're going to jump onto Tal as well. The chains does not connect as Tal tries to escape Jizuki. Does he have a distortion? No! Ruin and Tal and Muujin get away off towards the end of that fight.
How do we even break that down? That was absolutely crazy. I'm not sure what Gilius and Jizuki were trying to achieve when they were sat in the enemy jungle. I think potentially looking for a catch as the red buff came up. That was the most likely scenario there. But they were spotted moving in because there's a good amount of vision capturing that red side entrance for RB. And then the collapse from RB was swift. But then everything just went to hell after that point in time, and it was all over the place. Again, like you said, Cedrian did kind of execute Kasing by knocking him back into the team, but at the end of it, RB, you feel, did get that turret off the back of it. It was a pretty even trade across the board, so realistically, RB will be moderately happy with that, and they've finally killed Mini Truepax, the first team to do. I guess that's a small trophy that you can take from this situation.
So he has 30 kills to 1 death in the Challenger Series.
I mean, I'd take a 30 to 1 KDA.
It's not a KDA though, because it's not even including assists.
Oh,
that's
wow.
just a KD.
A KD.
It's pretty impressive from him. It also has a CS lead in this bottom lane, about 30 farm ahead, but Kalista does fall off a little bit as you get later on into the game. As well as that, Tal had 2 kills off that last fight down towards the bottom side, and now is sitting on a black cleaver. Ruin yet to complete his cleaver, instead went for a Tiamat and the Phage.
Kind of need the Tiamat to keep up with Renekton's wave shove though, because obviously you can rely on your Dragon Strike, but Renekton with Kol'Thamiq and Slice and Dice can absolutely decimate waves, so he doesn't need to prioritize a Tiamat as early as a Jarvan would to keep up with the way these waves will shove in the top lane. He will eventually go towards the Black Cleaver. Usually you get Tiamat, Phage, and then go Black Cleaver, and then finish up Titanic Hydra. This time round, though, Black Cleaver already there for Tal, so it's going to give him really good trading potential versus Ruin.
So before the game started, we talked a lot about Muujin and Gilius, and we said the jungler that gets the earlier ganks off will be able to snowball their team a little bit. It looks like Muujin has done that for his team thus far, but what is the win condition now for Team RB? How do they actually close out this game?
Well, they've got their first turret in the mid lane. I'd like to see some aggressive vision put down. You've got excellent catch potential with Cedrian and MagiFelix. Eventually, you'll want to transition to 1-3-1. I mean, they've kind of held that off right now because MagiFelix's potential to take on Jizuki in the mid lane is so strong. I think they do also want to maybe go for a bot lane dive, which is what they might be orchestrating with the shove from Cedrian and Kasing. But eventually, they're going to want to move to 1-3-1, where you feel that MagiFelix and Tal right now have advantages. They just need to sort of, I think they need to make a big play around bot lane tier 1 and then rotate off that and then go for the tier 1 on the top lane and make that usual play. It's just so unusual to have taken first tier turret in the mid lane because it opens up so much of the map that you're not used to, because you usually rotate around mid lane tier 1 and then take it afterwards. But this time they're going to get a big shove onto the mid lane tier 2 here, so they're going to start sieging.
And the thing about this is a lot of the wave clear actually from these 3 members of Giants is kind of engage wave clear. So you're looking at Shatter Orb, you're looking at Distortion like that. And if Jizuki is jumping in, it always provides you the opportunity to try and jump back on him.
The problem is I don't think their tower take is good enough right now to be able to make those plays where they can just walk up to a tier 2 turret and try and catch them on rotation. They don't have a quick enough tower clear, and you can see, you know, you actually managed to shove that lane in free from Mini Trupax. He wasn't even forced to rotate out bot lane. What is the next dragon that we see coming up here? We'll decide whether we actually see a team fight around it or not. You know, you might actually just see people kind of ignore it for the most part.
Well, Mugen's actually backing off towards the top side. A second Ocean would be great for Giants. I think they pretty much have this one in the bag.
They do. Yeah, they do. I mean, I don't think anyone is in position to contest this. Jizuki tries to find a bit of pressure, but won't get it done. And again, there you go.
Yeah, easy enough. You've got Smite, you've got Rend, you've got everything you need to secure a dragon. And actually, this is something we did talk about earlier on, is Mugen's ability to control objectives. Now, he's got a Rift Herald and a tower for his team this game, but has lost out on those 2 early dragons. Ocean, not the most impactful later on in the game, but definitely helps in a 1-3-1.
I think it really helps in a 1-3-1 because you can disengage from a 1v1 that has kind of gone even, then you regenerate that HP a little bit more readily. You can look for another trade, get the shove because you have the HP advantage. We have now seen the transition to the 1-3-1, so they did make that rotation finally off the back of that mid lane tier 1 take, which means you now can start to shove that LeBlanc in with your duo lane, which I think is very important. But again, I think they need to be looking to make a dive on one of these turrets. And classically, Lissandra is one of the better dive champions in the game because you have that Frozen Tomb. And obviously, LeBlanc being such a prime target for that, you might be able to orchestrate something with even just Mugen and MagiFelix going for a tier 1 dive in the bot lane.
Looking across the gold, there aren't too many disparities. An interesting point is the fact that Mini Trupax is still ahead. 400 gold ahead of Cedrian at the moment because of that farm advantage. Top lane is 500 in favor of Tal, but it's so close. It's a lot of it is actually sitting on Mugen's shoulders because of those early kills he got. He's 700 ahead of Gilius.
It's interesting that this is, in my opinion, this is classic RB. They have massive lulls in the mid game where they don't really know what they want to achieve. And we're going to get towards late game where they have categorically, as we can see from the statistics throughout the Challenger Series, struggled to make good late-game decisions and have impactful late-game team fights.
Late game for them is 40 minutes, so it is a little bit away from
here. It's a little bit away.
Double the length of the game.
But it is this lull that you are starting to think, well, okay, you shove the Lissandra into the LeBlanc, but LeBlanc clears waves. You have to do something proactive. It looks like Thal has come down here. This might be a rotation to bot lane tier 1 with this wave, potentially, although it just looks like they're kind of faffing around in mid lane, and now Thal might now head back up to top lane. The problem is that you just have lanes that are going to shove against each other so equally right now. So you have to do something proactive to sort of get the game moving from this position. Unless you're relying on a 1v1 kill, which I think will be difficult.
They have got a path up to top lane if they want to take it. It looks like they were going for it. Jackdraw's going to face check here. Straight into Kasing, Cedrian, and Mugen. They knew that Tal was up towards the top side, so it was relatively safe for them to do it. Ruin has the flank. Mugen safeguards away. Tiamat takes some fire to the face. The Giants. And they will gain control of the river for the time being. We're still waiting on some secondary items here for RB as well, though. Like, they haven't quite got the Zhonya's on MagiFelix. He's only just short of that at the moment. At most, 800 gold away. You're waiting on second item for Cedrian. You're waiting on first completed item for Kasing as well. Actually, looks like he's going down that Talisman of Ascension line. There we are. Just completed. Oh, the prediction god of a support main right there. That's what we can do. We don't see too many Talismans of Ascensions on Rakan. We do more in 7.13, but a lot more people were going Frost Queens into Eye of the Equinox. We're
actually seeing a lot of Talisman Ascension on 7.13, believe it or not. We've seen huge amounts of people start to pick it up as those ranged supports. So the movement speed often can be super powerful in really tense situations. They look like they are rotating towards this top lane. I feel like this might be one of the harder lanes to actually get a solid gank on because it is a Jarvan. He has got a bit of health, and those Ninja Tabe behind him, and the EQ combo gets you kind of out of a lot of sticky situations. But again, it's starting to stale. This mid-game is starting to become a bit stale for RB. They're just clearing waves, shoving things into turret and expecting something to happen. I think they had an opportunity when Lissandra is shoving in LeBlanc in the bot lane to rotate down there. And LeBlanc can't defend waves if the entire team just turns up to them, and then you could just quickly, very, very quickly take it. It might be that RB are waiting for those item spikes that you mentioned, the Zhonya's, which has now been completed for MagiFelix, maybe waiting for the second item for Cedrian to be picked up, which is more than likely going to be a Ruin's Hurricane, you imagine.
MagiFelix has come up towards the top lane. He's going to try and deal with Ruin for the time being. Neither team has incredibly strong engage as well, which can be a little bit difficult. Like, you've got the Lee Sin to jump in, you've got the Rakan as well from RB. Okay, let me finish my point, right? They don't have strong engage in a pure face-up. Okay, if they get vision control, Rakan is really good at engaging.
I mean, I don't know. Have you seen Jarvan before? Have you seen Jarvan before?
Yeah, okay. I'll hold my hands up. That was a mistake. Jizuki jumped in a little bit here.
You should have seen the studio. I just started going underneath Aaron's face. Like, what are you talking about, my friend?
What I meant by it was the engage, although it's there, it's hard to do when you're just purely in this 1-3-1. Because you have to get vision control and then get a flank engage.
To make the engages work, you have to group, right? Like, these are group-based engages, apart from maybe the 3 in the middle. But, like, let's be honest, Varus is not going to one-bomb somebody. Varus is not a one-bomb AD carry. He doesn't build critical strike. He's there for a more sustainable. But that is the engage.
Corruption. There's the charm coming in as well. Fate's call out, repel up. Jackdaw jumps back in with the Glacial Fissure, trying to block off Mugen. His Tal gets cocooned. The exhaust down straight away as well. Counter TP being used. Stun onto Tal, and RB might just have to back away. Kassin gets absolutely decimated there. Sedgrim knocked back as well. The chains connect. That's a dead AD carry. We did see Gilius falling to Mugen off towards the back of the fight. They might actually look just to catch him out here. MagiFelix still has ult.
Does still have ult, which is a very important factor when dealing with the likes of Jizuki and Mini Trupax, both incredibly mobile. Lissandra very good at locking down mobile carries.
Coming for the flank. Trying to get onto Jackdaw. Jizuki
big
needs to be careful here.
Big defense from RB. I don't know if they can do it.
They're still looking for the flank off towards the top side. The turret is falling lower. Jacktraw's been engaged on Tiles there as well. Ruin with the knock-up onto Mugen. Here comes the hit from MagiFelix. The double root onto Jacktraw's Cataclysm out as well. Jizuki trying to do what he can, but he can't do much. He can just not take down MagiFelix. The shield from Kassin was absolutely devastating.
But they still potentially just end up losing the turret regardless, but it was a major defense from RB. The setup for MagiFelix was perfect there, but they still lose the turret because they just took too much damage in the process.
That shield right at the end was absolutely devastating. And the flank, actually, Giants had a pink ward in that bush.
I mean, they knew the flank.
They knew it was happening.
They had vision in the Baron Tiny Brush. I'm just going to call it the Baron Tiny Brush. They had vision in the side brush of the river. They knew that was happening, right? But they chose to make that commitment because they felt that they had low enough HP bars on RB's side. Let's have a look at it here. This is the setup from the Lissandra. I mean, that is like dream territory for a Lissandra to jump in, get a 3-man route, and then be able to ult herself for maximum team-wide damage.
It's actually Mugen's shield. Yeah. Mugen's the one who comes in with the shield, not
he uses the safeguard to keep them safe there, but...
the safeguard
to keep them safe. I know, that sounds funny. I actually think previous to that, if we went back to the team fight that actually resulted in that situation, Giants' ability to focus the team fight was way better than RB. RB had Mugen and MagiFelix off chasing Gilius through the jungle, and 4 members of Giants then said, okay, well, we have the ability to engage with Jarvan, we can lock down a carry, we can get LeBlanc to look for an execute, and they actually capitalized on poor team fight positioning for RB, because they chased and then split so heavily during that team fight, and that was a really good...
Kassin with the flash in, double knock-up as well onto Mini. Mugen's going to chase him all the way in, can't quite get the kill. Here's Tal as well up towards the top side. Giants need to get out of here. Ruin no TP, can't join the fight. Glacial Path into Glacial Fissure, into a stun. The cocoon's not enough. Frozen Tomb for MagiFelix. Chain of Corruption lands on Jizuki. He's going to have to try and jump his way away. Will escape to fight another day.
Okay, so team fight's now going to result in something tangible, which might be this top lane tier 1. That was a really good play by Kassin. Let's hark back to...
Oh, Mini! Oh, there's a crocodile in the bush. Tries to QSS away. Cannot escape. And Giants won't be able to chase down Tal for the time being. Ruin is just pushing down mid, though. He's looking for that tier 2 as RB get their first tower in the top lane. Looking for a second of their own. Ruin's just going to continue to get this. RB will trade it for a tier 2 up towards the top. Two towers for one.
It's a 2 tower for one, and you lose your AD carry. The problem by having Jarvan do that, yes, you get something out of the situation, but Jarvan is your way to counter siege. A good way to counter siege, if you feel like you have the ability to do so, hard engage onto them under tower, force them to fight near your tower. It's a really good way to sort of shove a siege back, or actually just completely outright beat them in a team fight. Without Jarvan, you don't have to really have the way to do that for Giants unless you are catching with Julius. Unfortunately, Mini Trupax just face-checked the Renekton, and that resulted in the situation that you saw. But
let's take a second, let's reevaluate. 2,500 gold for RB, still not catastrophic for them. Item spikes have started to be hit here by both of the teams. Jizuki has a Void Staff alongside the Hextech Gunblade. You've got a Zhonya's and Rod of Ages fully stacked for Magic Felix. Phantom Dancer, Blade of the Ruin King into Blade of the Ruin King, and a Runan's, both AD carries with a QSS to their names.
Actually gone for a Phantom Dancer for Cedrian. I like that into a LeBlanc, by the way. Realistically, for Cedrian, one of the major threats to him is going to be LeBlanc in teamfights. So if you can get that basic attack down, reduce the damage, very important for him to give him some survivability, because he's a very immobile AD carry. It's why you've seen him prioritize the QSS and the Phantom Dancer. It is a very, can be offensive, but it is mainly sort of phrased at a defensive way of looking at these teamfights. Also want to just hark back to that entire situation that we saw just 3 minutes ago. All resulted because Kasing made a play. Yeah. And let's not forget that Kasing making a play.
He's making another one. He jumps in. The root comes out. It's a stunner rampage for Muujin as well. 4-0-4 at the moment. The hopes for Giants are not found. The Baron, however, can be found. And that is what RB are going to start up now. Mini Trupax and Ruin are in the mid lane, pushing it up. Jizuki's going to jump in, tries to land the chains onto Kasing. Muujin there, Baron low, 7,000 on it. Glacial Fisher comes out, Ring of Frost. Magic Felix trying to get away. Here comes Jizuki again. Ruin jumping in. The TP's going to come into the backside. Mini Trupax down towards the bottom of the fight. Has been jumped on here by Tal. Jack Troll there as well. The heal comes out. They're going to land another chain onto the Renekton. Cataclysm in the backline. Magic Felix takes out Ruin. They cannot capitalize on it. And Giants will just have to back away. Imagine if they just had a little bit more to follow up that superb Cataclysm from Ruin.
Oh, just wasn't the damage there, but Ruin made a play to keep them in this team fight. Giants also achieved their primary aim of shutting down that Baron in a 4 versus 5. And now come out on top and can start to clear vision, because now they have advantage of being able to just basically get rid of the wards, set things up, and now it makes RB second guess. RB now have to step up to the Baron area and make those face checks. Again, you mentioned Kasing making a play. Really want to touch on the fact that this is something that we talked about with Kasing. He is a play-making support. He does these late-game shot calls and engages. Just take a look here at that big 5-man Cataclysm by Ruin.
Oh, it's good. Imagine if you got Jizuki there to follow it up. Imagine if you got Elise there to cocoon someone as well. They just didn't want to jump in to that Ring of Frost, to the fact that Kasing could knock you all up. It was just a little bit too risky for Giants, but they hold on. They're only 2,000 gold behind. The scoreline looks so detrimental to them. 12 kills to 4, but they are still in this game.
Split pushing working out for them with LeBlanc in the bot lane now. It's actually going to force Magic Felix to rotate down. Luckily, does still have that teleport available and picks up a Banshee's Veil. So with red buff and Banshee's Veil, you imagine he's in a pretty solid situation to match up against LeBlanc, but also going into a LeBlanc with a Gunblade finished, a Void Staff finished, a lot of ways to pierce some of that magic resist built up with the Mercury Treads and the
6 stacks on his Dark Seal.
Yeah, 6 stacks, mate.
6 stacks.
Living the high life.
Gargoyle's Stoneplate has actually just been finished on Ruin as well. He has a 60 CS lead over Tal, although Tal has 5 kills to his name that Ruin lacks. And speaking of Ruin, you know, he's been around Challenger Series for a very long time. Played on SK Gaming for a while, played on Nerve for a while as well, and was never really this pure top laner that you looked at and said, yeah, he can outplay, he can make these big plays. But across Challenger Series this split, he has definitely been performing incredibly well. Only 500 gold behind, even though he's 5 kills in the hole.
Actually, he's starting to struggle the defensive Magi Felix. I feel like this bot lane tier 1 will end up going down. Magi Felix now rotates. Finding it difficult to be aggressive in this laning phase versus Jizuki now in the side lane.
And how much have they shut down Jizuki? Because this was something we said in Picks and Bans. We said, you have to shut down the LeBlanc. He's 3-1. He's ahead on farm. His team is doing okay. He's got double oceans for the 1-3-1. That doesn't seem like shutdown to me at all.
My worry as this game progresses is, for RB, you are relying more and more on making a big wombo combo happen because your straight-up teamfight damage feels like it's going to be lower. Because Magic Felix hasn't got a super aggressive build here. Wait a second, Kasing making a play.
Kasing with the quickness onto Ruin. He's going to jump away. Magic Felix. Banshees eats the cocoon.
That is huge because there is some massive ults burnt there for RB. You've burnt your Frozen Tomb by Magic Felix. You've burnt your quickness from Kasing. Lots of ways to shut down Jizuki now gone out the window. If Jizuki was to rotate here and look for a catch, especially forcing the issue around this Infernal Drake, suddenly RB are in a really tough situation to actually teamfight here. I don't even think they can contest.
No, you've got Ren. Like, Ren should be easy secure there. They actually take it down from 700. The smite from Gileas does get it. There is a Cloud Drake on RB's side. I'm sure we'll update the overlay just to show you that. Giants now have double Ocean and an Infernal to their name. If this was Magicka, they would have made a little bit of steam.
Do RB have a Cloud Drake?
Yes, they do.
I didn't even notice.
It wasn't that impactful.
That's how insignificant Cloud Drake is.
Exactly. Although it does give them extra movement speed for Kasing.
Yeah,
talks about the wombo combo they're engaged can be a little bit better, but it's not that impactful in all honesty.
Baron's going to be set up as the next major objective.
Is this the impact? Is this the impactful thing? Because we say, you know, Dragons at this point, unless it's an Elder or an Infernal, don't really matter that much. Is Baron the main point here? Because you still have a 1-3-1 from Giants. They've still got double TP on either side.
The best composition to make a Baron work in is a 1-3-1 or a heavy siege composition. So if you can get Baron rolling in all three lanes, there's a lot of bounty to still be had by the RB composition. You can still take 2 towers in the bot lane, you can still take mid lane tower, and you could even group and shove that top lane inhibitor turret to try and take that. My issue is when it comes to a straight up team fight, unless you are using your Frozen Tomb on Jizuki or onto mini Trupax, I feel like you're in a tough position. They used it on Ruin to try and catch a guy with a Gargoyle Stone Plate out and a Ninja Tabai. I mean, Ruin took no damage from that attempted catch by RB.
He doesn't actually have any magic resist either, I just realized.
Just so tanky because he's Jarvan.
Oh, I guess Gargoyle Stoneplate gives you a little bit of magic resist, but no Mercury Treads, no Spirit Visage, nothing along those lines to keep himself a little bit safer. Magic Felix's Banshees will eat the Winter's Bite. They're going to get flanked by Jizuki's clone.
RB have to play these team fights so well. It's almost going to be like a situation where you peel back and try and make a catch, or Magic Felix has to find a flank.
Ruin is looking for that flank just down towards the bottom of this fight. Kasing there as well. They're going to get vision control up towards this Baron pit.
And the better thing, this is an excellent way for Giants to play. If they can force RB to face check, that's exactly what they want. Suddenly there are no surprises for Giants if RB are forced to face check these kind of fights around Baron.
Instead, RB are trying to take the fast track down the middle lane. No minions there for them. Giants playing well around mid lane priority there. Here comes the quickness. Kasing looking for the double charm, gets it in. There's the Frozen Tomb ready for Magic Felix as well. The root comes in. Jizuki has to TP into this fight. He's eventually going to join the fight, and Giants have actually managed to turn it around. Tal was not there. Magic Felix goes golden with the Zonyas, but he's going to get the glacial path out. Tal, that front line, tanking everything up. Jizuki on a rampage up towards the back line. Cedrian flashes for it. Tal's going to fall as well. Giants take down 2 and are looking for that Baron.
Literally, we talked about this 5 minutes ago. The lack of damage from RB in a straight-up team fight is worrying. And unless they can absolutely catch out Jizuki or mini Trupax right at the start, you can't just run at the Giants' composition because they see everything that you offer.
That's so good from Giants.
So good from Giants.
Stop immediately. Ruin and Jizuki jump across. Cedrian might get Ruin, doesn't even get the kill with that Gargoyle Stoneplate. And this is the 100% Baron record for Giants throughout all of their games, maintained here against Team RB.
Giants are playing these team fights so well because they can see all the cards that RB has in their hand. It's like playing poker, but your opponent is showing you their entire hand.
Is that not what you're meant to do?
No.
That's where I've gone wrong.
That's maybe where you've lost all your money. RB need to find a flank with Magic Felix. The only way you catch out Giants in these fights, you actually straight up lose in terms of damage output in a 5v5. You need to have Magic Felix flank onto someone like mini Trupax or Jizuki, catch them with the Frozen Tomb and try and burst them. I don't think they win in any other way in a team fight because you've got Thal, who's fallen off in damage entirely because he's only got the Black Cleaver, hasn't even finished the Titanic Hydra yet. You've got Cedrian with a build that is very defensive orientated as well. I mean, the straight up damage output of Cedrian is very low at this point.
We'll have to see if they are able to hold out. It looks like it's a 1-4 here for Giants.
The big spike for RB to next play around, I think, is MagiFelix's Void Staff. I think that's the next spike they can play around, because without that Void Staff, it does feel like that MagiFelix is super lackluster.
Here comes the engage, the charm, lands double stun as well. Gideus repels up, Mini Trupax untouched at the back of the fight, but Tarl's going to try and change that. Knocked up with the concussive blows. Ruin has the flank, has the Cataclysm if he wants it, then knock up. Kasing caught as well. MagiFelix tries to glacial path out. Will just about escape. 1-for-1. Jungler for top laner.
That was a catch. They basically made a 5 versus 3 catch and still couldn't win the fight there.
Jizuki misses the chains.
Mini Trupax's a god, by the way, as well. Just his positioning, his ability to stay safe. I mean, no wonder this guy had no deaths previous to this game. He is just shredding through the entire RB lineup. And that was, like you said, that was a big engage that was essentially a catch onto the Giants roster. And they still ended up going only even out of it.
This is going to be an inhib falling. MagiFelix just about gets away towards the back of the fight. Re-engage coming out from Kasing. If he wants to talisman pop, Muujin there as well. We'll just get forced back by Giants. Teleport's actually being used from MagiFelix. He's going to try and get a flank off here. They do still have Cataclysm. They don't have any other ultimates available for them. There's the Frozen Tomb used. Kasing jumps in, Ruin with the Cataclysm to get himself back out. MagiFelix, the one on the receiving end of all the damage as Jizuki goes unstoppable. Cedrian jumped on. It's a double for Giants as they might look just to close out this game.
They are pushing in here. It's going to be very hard, you think, for RB to defend with only Thal, Muujin, and Kasing for wave clear. This is Giants taking the first game of the series. You have to feel here, Medic.
First Nexus Tower is going to fall. Gilius joins the rest of his team. Giants looking victorious once again. And Red Bull flew too close to the sun. They grew their wings, but they weren't able to take down the Giants. 1-0 up in this best of 2.
And something else that we didn't touch on was how vulnerable Cedrian was to both Jarvan and